Oh God, there we go. We're not ready. Go for it.
So you've what have you been doing? Have you been out on your bike?
Said, yes, we're just having a bad day. We're sat here. My camera angle isn't working. I can't make it work for me. I'm red in the face. I've just got back from testing out my cleats and I fell off a few times. So just
I
feeling
won't
a
worry
bit
about
sorry for myself this evening. We're not having a good day.
the first time I went out on my road bike with the cleats. I'd not practiced. For anybody who's never been on a road bike with cycling cleats, if you've done spin, you'll understand it. But on a bike, you've got shoes that
No,
lock you into the
no,
pedals.
you wouldn't. I've done spin. I've done spin, and I wasn't ready.
But if on your bike, you've got your shoes that clip you into the pedals, which allow you to pull up on the pedal as well as push down, so you get better power transfer. But they are you because of that, you have to twist your foot to get them out. And if you don't remember that, when you come to a standstill, you panic and you just end up falling over on your bike. And everybody does it the first time they go out on the bike. The best one I ever did was on a T junction. And the secret is to remember falling into the side of the road, not
Not
into
to
the
it.
middle of the road, which is what
Yeah.
I did. And a car was probably about 2 feet away from running my head over. No helmet would have. The look on the woman's face when
So
she came
yeah.
out, I think she was feeling. I just felt embarrassed. She was in full on shock. But yeah, so everybody
No, I
did
just
it.
did a few loops around the park, and it was trying to get my second foot in the cleat, and then it wasn't happening, and then I kept slipping, and then I just slowed down too much and just went, oh.
Yeah.
And then my Apple Watch was like, we've detected a fall. I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
have fallen. It's not an emergency. I am okay. But we know
Well,
that feature works. So
at
yeah,
least,
it's
yeah, you tested one way of testing it out.
yeah.
And at least you did it in the park, which is more sensible than me who went out onto main roads and did it.
No, that was my plan. I was a bit
Yeah.
nervous. So I've practiced in the house on the turbo. That was the first one trying it outside. Once
See,
I got
that would have been
going,
a good idea
absolutely
as
fine.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, started inside like cleating, uncleating. So getting off was actually all right once I was going. And then tomorrow I'm going for an actual long cycle, but I'm doing it on cycle paths, not a road. I'm
So
not that brave.
my advice is if you're ever doing it and you're approaching the junction, always uncleat like 1 foot,
Yeah.
and then just keep it on the pedal, but unclip it so that if you do have to stop at the junction, you can put your foot down and always lean to the side where your foot is out of the cleat, because I always forget to do that as well. But hey ho.
Extra
Anyway,
tips everyone this evening. If any of you are going to take up road cycling, you're welcome.
I would also buy padded shorts because those seats are really uncomfortable.
I've got
Um,
some. I have
yeah,
got some.
for the first time I did a long ride on that, it's the seats and I mean I can imagine what it's like for women, but for men it's just as bad because it cuts off the blood supply to your bits and you can't feel them. You get off and you think, have they fallen off? It's yeah. Uh,
No, it just hurts. It's just not comfy.
we're
But
selling
do
we're
you know
selling
what?
this, Alice. We're really selling
We
this.
are. Everyone do a triathlon. It's definitely worth it.
Right. Cool. Questions. We've got a
Yeah,
few tonight, so we're going to rattle through them quickly.
we have. Are we ready? Well, I'm
Yeah.
just going to go top to bottom.
Top to
What
bottom.
is the correct percentage of macros to aim for?
Cool. So there's loads of stuff, and you see if you ever go online and look at social media and you type in like advice for people kind of worry too much, and we've said it before, people worry too much about macronutrients. Just as a recap, in case you're wondering what the macronutrients are, in case anybody's listening to this who hasn't heard before, so you've got protein, carbs, and fats in your macronutrients. They are the ones that we get our energy from. They're called macronutrients as opposed to micro because we need a lot of them relative. So your micronutrients are things like your vitamins and minerals that you only need small amounts of. Okay, so that's what your macros are. There's lots of different things. So if you use my fitness pal, it tends to go 50, 20, 30 for your carbs, protein, fats. That's your standard. I think it's that way around. It might be 15, 30, 20 carbs, protein, fats, but it sets that up. That, to be fair, is not a bad one. It's not a bad kind of split. Some of the some influencers and for a period of time about 5 years ago, 40 30 30 was a popular one: carbs, fats, proteins. And again, it's not a bad one, but the problem with focusing on, well, for two things. One, really, if your goal is fat loss and it's just general overall health, there's only two things you need to focus on: calories and protein. And carbs and fats, generally, it's kind of down to a preference. There are a few things for health that you kind of have to not worry about, but think about and have in the back of your mind. But, you know, as long as you're hitting your calorie range, whatever your goal is, whether it's maintenance, loss, or gain, you're fine. And then a protein minimum target of about, I always sort of recommend, if you're under the age of 40, at least 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per lean body mass, or your goal weight. And then if you're above 40, up that to 1.5. And especially if you're a woman who's in perimenopause, up that to 1.5. That's a general guide. There are different ones. You know, if you are very lean and you want to maintain muscle mass, you might need a bit more. If you're trying to build a little bit of muscle whilst being in a very moderate, very, very small deficit, then you might need a bit more. But generally, if you're aiming for somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of goal weight or lean body mass, then, you know, that's fine. And then your carbs and fats doesn't really matter. But, and we were just saying this before we came on, with your fat goal, you don't want to be less than 15% is a low fat diet. Anything less than that, you want to try and avoid, certainly for prolonged periods of time. You know, anything more than a few weeks, absolutely avoid that, because there are kind of knock-on effects to hormone regulation and other things. But, you know, 20 to 30% as a rough idea of a range, and then the rest made up by carbs. But the problem with percentages is that they're not very, you need an individual approach. And if you give people percentages, it's not individual. So what works for one person won't work for somebody else. It's best to work out what your actual values are. So if you're using a tracking app, I know MyFitnessPal, if you're using the free version, allows you to set your percentages. Just ignore it, really. Leave it at 50, 30, 20, and then just use the nutrition tab, the nutrition section of the nutrition tab, just to track your grams. So you work out what your grams are. So 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein. You need around 0.5 to 1 gram of fat per kilogram of body weight, and then somewhere between 2, well, depending on the goal. If it's fat loss, between 1 and 3. If it's maintenance and health, between sort of 2 and 4 grams per kilo. Okay, so if you've got those, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, don't worry too much. I think that should be enough information.
Yeah, the only thing to add is, I guess, like, I think we've said it before, but like you say, calories and protein are the main ones to focus on. And then really your carbs and your fats, as long as you don't drop your fats too low, it's just personal preference. Like, you don't need to stress over those numbers and those percentages, like you say, because it's whatever works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Next question.
Next one is,
like
I'll read it as it is. When deadlifting, what is the difference between the barbell and the cagey thing that you stand in?
You call it the cagey thing as well.
I do call it the cagey thing, and everyone knows exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So we don't need to worry about the technical term for Hex Bar, Will, because it's a cagey thing.
The cagey thing is the Hex Bar. When you look at it from above, it looks like a hexagon. The main difference is really kind of the position that your hands are in. Sometimes the Hex Bar is called a suitcase deadlift. You can do it with dumbbells or kettlebells. The main difference is where your hands are. So with the deadlift, the barbell deadlift, the arms are in front of you. And then with your Hex Bar deadlift, your arms are by the side of you. So it tends to change your center of gravity and your position. If you're using the barbell, you tend to be slightly more leaned over. So it's more of a glute dominant, because you're leaning over more, you're hinging more. With your Hex Bar, you're in more of a squatting position, more upright. So it's a bit more quads. And then the other thing as well, depending on which Hex Bar you use, it's also called the trap bar as well. But depending on which one you use, whether it's a complete hexagon or only kind of an open one where it's the missing one side of it, the handles are a little bit higher. So if you struggle if you've got if you struggle because you think the bar is too low, the hex bar tends to be a bit easier because the handles are a bit higher, so you're not as leaning over as much as close to the ground. So that's kind of the main thing. With the position of the hands, it makes it easier to keep your shoulders back as well. It's easier to keep those
Yes.
back, so you're less likely to roll the shoulders forward because you're more upright. Is slightly less stress on the lower back. So if you do struggle with your back, then the hex bar tends to be a bit easier. And also because it brings more of the quads in as well as the glutes, you tend to be able to lift a bit more with the hex bar. But yeah, I mean they work in similar ways. It's working your back, your grip strength, your lower body, so quads, glutes, hamstrings, they both work the same, but hex bar tends to be more quad dominant, barbell tends to be more glute dominant, and the hex bar easy to keep your shoulders back, less pressure on your lower back, slightly higher grip, so it is a bit easier to get it off the ground, and then you can lift a bit more as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the next one, sticking with more of the workout themes, should I be working out with or without shoes on? As I've seen a few mixed reviews.
All right. So what do you do when you're working out? Shoes on or off?
Oh, it depends. Well, on, but I have different shoes for different things. So that's my difference. So mainly for me, with like my ankle mobility, I've got proper lifters for when I'm squatting, just to elevate my heel a little bit.
Yeah.
Just for the positioning there. But obviously I wouldn't use them for anything else. So when I'm doing my gym workouts, they're a very flat shoe.
Yeah.
But then my running shoes are obviously very different. They're very supportive, have a little bit more cushioning in them. I have worked out barefoot before if I've forgotten my trainers. But yeah, mostly it's just a different shoe for a different style of workout.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing. It's shoes on or off depends on your shoe. So
Yeah.
if you've got like if you're doing Olympic lifts like squats or deadlifts, then you want something that has quite a firm sole that's flat. So if you've got running trainers on, it's like deadlifting or squatting on a bed. Your feet are not going to be that stable, spongy. And it's, if they're really spongy, it can make you, especially if you're squatting heavy weights, it can make things seem really unsteady and can be dangerous. You can turn your ankle or injure
Yeah.
yourself. So, if you've got spongy shoes and you haven't got, a flat shoe. So this is why you see people lifting in Converse because it's
Yes.
very flat, very, very thin sole. So your feet are on the ground.
Yeah.
But if you've not got a spongy shoe, then yeah, take your shoes off and lift without the shoes. But otherwise, I've got lifters. So for squats, and things like leg presses, things like that, I use a lifting shoe that, like you say, it's a flat sole.
Yeah.
It's hard. It doesn't really give, and it's got an elevated heel, and that makes squatting easier because it artificially increases the range of motion at your ankle. If I'm doing deadlifts, I actually take my shoes off. I deadlift just with my socks, shoes off. Again, because I have got deadlifting shoes, but I prefer a flat foot on the ground, so I'm more connected with the ground and I can feel that stability. But then for other lifts, I use a hybrid shoe, and there's loads of different ones. Metcons
Yeah.
are probably the most
Really popular.
yeah,
Yeah.
really popular. I use the Reebok Nanos, but
That's what I've got. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I've,
Tom's got the Adidas ones. I can't remember
yeah.
what they're called now.
There's
But
loads,
yeah,
there's
he's got
loads
the
of
Adidas
different
version.
types. The key thing is you've got to find a shoe that fits. So the reason I use the Reebok Nanos is because it's got what you call a wide toe box. So where the toes go, it's nice and wide. So I've got wide feet, gives me space. It also allows me to spread my toes out so I can get that stability. If you've got narrow feet, then you might do better with the Metcons or the Under Armour ones as well. They have some good lifting shoes. But effectively, it's the shoes on or off. It's down to what trainer you've got. If you've got proper lifting shoes, then shoes on. For safety reasons more than anything, they're going to give you
Yeah.
a little bit more protection. Mind you, if you drop a 20-kilo plate on your foot,
Gonna hurt.
shoes aren't
Yeah.
the shoes aren't going to help you. But it might stop you from stubbing your toe. But yeah, for squats, I tend to, like I say, I tend to use lifters. If I forget to take them, I will tend to take my shoes off. But that's just a preference thing. But if you've got
Yeah.
running shoes on, take them off, lift
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah, don't be lifting in running shoes is probably the
Yeah,
best bit
that's
of
the key
advice.
thing. Yeah, and it's look at the foot, look at the shoe. Is it a hard sole? Is it flat? Is it, and when I'm say flat, I mean the bottom of the shoe. Is it flat? It's not got like an arch in the sole or two parts to it. And then how much give does it have? I mean, I'm not talking like it's got to be like standing on the ground itself and standing on seal or concrete. But you know, if it's spongy, probably not the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, look at your shoe. If your shoe's firm, if it's flat, that's probably absolutely fine. Keep with those.
Amazing. And then we've got, as I don't go to the gym at the weekend, am I okay to do Saturday's workout with Monday or Friday? I've been doing some days together if I've not made it, but wanted to check if that's okay. So I'm guessing like back-to-back workouts, is this what we're
Yeah, I mean,
looking at?
yeah, it's so this is obviously somebody on the shaping up, and they've got 4 workouts. Ideally, I would try and do them on different days, because obviously it gives you time for rest time. So the way that we program is that you do, you can either you've got basically 4 workouts: push, pull, upper, lower, or sometimes we do push, pull, legs, full body. So they're designed that you can do push and pull back to back, as in one
Yeah.
day after the other, and then upper, lower one day after the other. You could do push pull legs 3 consecutive days, have a rest, and then do a full body one.
Yeah.
That's how they're kind of designed. Yes, you can do so if you did, as long as they're not working the same body part. So you could do push and pull together.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, and you could do upper and lower together. But what you've got to think to yourself is, how much am I going to get out of both of them? You know, if the workouts we do, they're designed that, you know, you can get them done in sort of say 30 to 45 minutes. So if you've got an hour or an hour and a half and you're full of energy, then yeah, you could do that. But you've got to kind of ask yourself, how much am I going to get out of them? Are they going to be tiring so that you don't get, you know, you might put your full workout, full effort into the first one, and then you won't have as much for the second one, or you might go, right, I'll spread myself, I'll pace myself so I can do both, and it's kind of that. So yes, you can try, if that's what you're going to do, try and make that a consistent thing so that you can progress across both of them. But ideally, if you've got the time, then do it as scheduled. Or, I mean, if you've got push pull legs, then just do push pull legs and don't worry about trying to squeeze in the full body. That would be an optional extra. If it's upper, push pull and then upper, then yeah, you might want to try and get the lower body in with another one. You might do the upper and lower body together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess if it's a time thing, just think about like your big compound lifts on them. Like if you can't do all like the little accessory ones and you don't have the time to fully back to back them, but you still want to make sure you get them in.
Yeah.
Focus on the bigger lifts.
Yeah, do the compound. So you know, the way we do it is, you in each workout you've got 2 big compound lifts, and then you've got your accessory and isolation lifts. So those are the supporting lifts. So yeah, maybe do 1 compound from each, and then you could do 1 big upper body compound, 1 big lower body compound, and then do a couple of accessories from each. So you could mix and match it that way as well. And that would kind of overcome some of the difficulty of having to spread yourself too thinly.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to that consistency point. Whatever you decide you're going to do, try and do that week on week so that you are consistent. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Overall, it has to fit with your lifestyle. And, you know, if going to the gym at the weekends isn't, it has to be something that will be sustainable for you. So, yeah, if that's what's going to work better, then absolutely. But like you say, just keep it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Consistent. Yeah.
It is. And that's a really good point. We try and do things that, you know, you're not fitting your life around this. You're trying to fit this into your life.
Yeah, exactly. And make it work for you. So, yeah. And then the last one, would taking magnesium glycinate harm me if I start taking it?
As long as you stick to the dose, there shouldn't be any issues at all. The thing is, you've got to kind of think, what is it you are taking it for?
Yes.
So it's kind of, the question I would always say is, ask yourself is why? Why am I taking it? Now, with magnesium glycinate, there are a couple of potential benefits. One being there is potential benefit for aiding sleep. Okay, so especially in women and perimenopausal women, there is this kind of idea that, well, people who generally struggle with the sleep, there's this kind of idea that it's the glycinate part of it. That's an amino acid, and there is evidence to suggest that it's got kind of a calming effect, a relaxative effect that can help you reduce anxiety in particular, can help you relax in the evenings, which can aid better sleep. There's not any concrete evidence on that. This is all kind of preliminary evidence, I guess, and there's more studies that need to be done. But, you know, ask yourself why you're taking it. So is it for sleep? There is potential that it could reduce cramps, particularly in the legs. And magnesium does tend to be one of the micronutrients that people are slightly deficient in. So if you are deficient, then, you know, absolutely, it could be something that's useful. The only way you're going to know if you're deficient in magnesium is having a blood test. It's not a standard test. It's not something that's standardly tested for, so you could request that. But if you want to take it, absolutely, it's not overly expensive. If you stick to the recommended dose, it should be fine. But yeah, ask yourself why you're taking it. What is it you're taking it for? Is it because there's a specific issue that you think it might help with? Then try it. It doesn't work for everybody. I also would add that we've said this before, the placebo effect is very, very powerful. But if it does work for you and you can afford it, absolutely. I'm not going to suggest don't take it. But, you know, ask yourself why you're taking it. Is there a point to it? Or is it just one of those, you know, oh, I've read somewhere that it might help me. And, you know, so yeah, ask yourself that. But no, if you want to take it, as long as you stick to the recommended doses, I think it's about 400 milligrams, I think is what the usual dose is, then that should be absolutely fine.
Perfect. And the only other bit that we were going to, well, have a little look at is that you put out a very interesting post today. About, I mean, I guess it links in with one of our questions from last week about how to drop a stone in like 2 weeks. But you know, looking at rapid fat loss and ways that you can do it in a safer way. That, you know, isn't necessarily looking at it as like one of these quick fix fad diets that promise if you take some magic supplement or drink this special drink, you'll suddenly drop a dress size overnight. And how to do it safely in a way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the point of it, is that, I mean, I know my social media is kind of biased because of the things I look for and look at, but there's lots and lots of things at the moment, particularly now, because we're coming up to July. People are going on holiday the end of July, beginning of August, and they're kind of panicking. They want to be beach body ready. I mean, you've got a body, there's a beach, you're beach body ready. And to be fair, there was a conversation I had with a client today who she said, every year I stress about this, and when I get there, I think to myself, what's the point? Because you know, I look around and actually, you know, she's in good shape. This client is in particularly good shape. She's fit. She's you know, she's not got excess body fat. The reason she's kind of training is to build up strength and to build up a bit more muscle. And she says, I look around and actually, you know, I have nothing to worry about. A lot of it of her body confidence is in her head, and one of the things that we're working on is that positive body image. So, but there are a lot of companies that prey on that kind of self-consciousness. So, and they'll try and sell you shakes, pills, all sorts of stuff, and they don't work. Effectively, it's all down, as we know, it's all down to calorie deficit. So what I wanted to try and do is put an evidence-based approach to doing it, and actually it's very, very similar to the one that Martin McDonald kind of spoken about in his various podcasts and on his social media. And it's also very similar to something called a protein sparing modified fast, which is a protocol written by a guy called Kyle McDonald, no relation to Martin McDonald. But he's that's been around for years. and it's just a very, very high protein, very low carb, low fat diet. Okay. And it is low calorie. And the thing behind this, and we don't necessarily advocate rapid fat loss. We are both, me and you are both slow and steady, build your habits, build your routines, maintain. But there are sometimes, occasions where rapid fat loss might be appropriate, might be needed. If you are starting off on a fat loss journey, it might help your motivation levels if you can see a big drop, and it might go, actually, I can do this. That's great. So it might help you to kind of see a big drop and then carry on in a more kind of sustainable approach.
Yeah.
The other thing that it can benefit with the rapid fat loss is that some people they struggle with appetite regulation.
Yeah.
And an aggressive diet and there is evidence in studies and research to show this, that an aggressive deficit can actually help people become more sensitive to leptin, which is your satiety hormone, makes you feel full, and it can reduce the amount of ghrelin that your stomach produces. So you're not as hungry. You don't get that sudden increase in hunger. So there are some benefits to it, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is, rapid fat loss is really, we talked about this last week. It means that your diet is very restrictive. It's very boring. It's very samey. You're not going to have space in there for chocolates, crisps, donuts, cakes, and stuff like that. Pizzas, nope. Pasta.
Chicken and veg.
Yeah, it is effectively, it's lean protein. So chicken, lean beef, white fish, your fat-free dairy products, fat-free yogurt and stuff like that. And then it's lots and lots of leafy green veg, salad vegetables, and no potatoes, no parsnips, no legumes, peas, anything like that. It's literally leafy green veg, salad veg, aubergines. It's very low carb stuff. So yeah, it's tough. It is. It's restrictive. Also, because it's low fat, as we've said before, it's not something you want to do long term.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And because it's an aggressive deficit, and the amount of food that you're going to be eating is quite low, it's going to be falling short on your micronutrients as well. So, and I put this in the post, one of the things that I would always recommend if anybody's doing this is to make sure you're taking a multivitamin, broad spectrum multivitamin, good quality one, and your essential fats. So something like an omega-3 or a fish oil tablet. But yeah, it's up there. I mean, you can actually check out the post. It gives you the 5 stages. It talks about how much protein you need to be aiming for. It gives you an idea of the type of vegetables. It talks about, no carbs, no fats. And also tells you minimize it. So it's 7 to 14 days, 1 to 2 weeks, then have a diet break of 3 to 5 days to eat close to maintenance, and then go again. There's no real calorie target. It's just eat enough protein. So I would recommend anywhere between 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per lean body mass, per kilo of lean body mass, and then just make the rest up with your berries and your salad veg and your non-starchy veg. But it's tough. It's not tough because you're hungry though.
Yeah. I think it's like it's because it's so restrictive, isn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want it. You'd want to do it at a time where you've got absolutely zero social plans, because going out to eat would be incredibly difficult. You wouldn't want to be going anywhere. You wouldn't, want to have any sort of plans that could potentially harm it. And actually, like we've said before, which is why we're such advocates of slow and sustainable, to allow yourself those occasions and to enjoy it. But yeah, if you've got anything like that, then definitely it's not the time to start it. But it's just, like you say, very restrictive. You can't have the foods that you might love, that we always say to make room for. And you've just got to be a bit sad for a little bit.
Yeah, and if you plan it, I mean, it's you've kind of got to go into it committed. That's the one thing I would say. You've got to go into it kind of committed to stick to it. So, you've got to almost be excited to do it. It's a bit of a weird way of saying it, but you've almost got to be excited to do it. So it's like, right, I've got this goal. Yes, I'm ready to do this. I'm committing to it. plan it. So look at your meals, think about what you're going to be eating for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And you might plan a couple of days and then alternate them just to stop the boredom. I mean, for me, I had things when I did it, I had things like egg white omelets with a load of veg, load of mushrooms and stuff on it, or I used fat-free Greek yogurt with berries and protein powder in just to really boost the protein content. My lunches would be things like chicken breast or white fish with roasted vegetables. Or I'd have a soup and I'd stick a load, it's like a vegetable soup and stick a load of chicken, cooked chicken or lean protein in it. And then again, the evening meal would be lean protein. So white fish, chicken breast, lean mince with a load of roasted veg. And it's kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, and it works. It does work. I mean, depending on your body size, depending on, I didn't track the calories. I didn't work out how many calories I was eating. I would just eat to those kind of restrictions. And I estimate about 1,000 to 1,200 calories. Now, my daily calorie expenditure, depending on how active I was somewhere between 3,200 to 4,000. So I was losing close to a pound of fat per day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could lose around about 5 to 7 pounds in a 7 to 10 day period. I actually lost more than that because you lose a lot of water weight, but in terms of fat mass, that's what I did. But that's not the same for everybody. I've done it with clients and they can lose anywhere between 2 and 5 pounds, generally within sort of a 7 to 10 day period. And then we brought them close to maintenance and then we'd go again. And I'd only ever did like 2 or 3 periods one after the other. And then it would be a more moderate deficit. So you can do it. It's tough, but it is effective. But there are a couple of, I do put the caveats in there in the post. So number one is if you struggle with consistency, it's probably not for you. Work on consistency first. It can help people learn consistency, and there are some benefits that they can go, actually, I can make really filling meals based on lean protein and a ton of vegetables, and it trains you to eat more veg. But if you struggle with staying consistent for any more than a couple of days at a time, and you're going to miss or binge, I think the key thing is if you have binge eating tendencies, then definitely do it.
This is not the one.
Yeah, this isn't long term, 7 to 14 days max, and then have a maintenance break. So the longer you do it for, so if you do it for 7 days, 2 or 3 days at maintenance, just to get the micronutrients back up. If you're going to do it for 14 days, then you need 5 to 7 days as a break in between, again, to get the kind of replenish your glycogen stores, get your micronutrients and your healthy fats in. And if you are not confident around nutrition, then I wouldn't do it on your own. You need to do it with
a coach.
With a coach,
absolutely,
and do it with a coach who has a proper nutrition qualification, something like a Mac nutrition qualification, or a nutrition degree. Don't do it with somebody who's done like there are loads and loads of online nutrition qualifications that are probably not good enough for people to do it with. They can advise you on other things, but maybe not with this one. But if you're not confident, seek professional advice. There will be a lot of nutrition professionals who wouldn't even consider this because it is extreme, and there are there are risks. So again, I would say do it with a professional. But there are those caveats. So if you struggle with things like binge eating disorder or any form of relationship issue with food, eating disorder, stay away from it. This is not for you. If you struggle with consistency, probably not for you. Okay, but it works. It is effective. It does work, and there are benefits to rapid fat loss. It's quick in and out. The problem with some of the longer term things is that if you're not having diet breaks built in like we do with our program, then if you're dieting for 12 months, that is mentally hard. Yeah, really hard. You're constantly in a period of restriction. And it can become boring and people can kind of get demotivated. If you're in and out quickly, it can maintain it maintains that motivation. Risk of one of the one of the concerns is like, well, won't I lose lean muscle tissue? Actually, with a short
Yeah.
with a short-term diet, you are at less risk of losing lean muscle mass, and you're more likely to lose fat mass. If you do a longer-term one, if you're not lifting weight and you're not eating enough protein, then there is a bigger risk of losing lean muscle tissue as well. And also appetite regulation, as I said, short, sharp ones. It actually helps with appetite regulation, and you tend to find less metabolic adaptation. That's some of the research is suggesting that, your body actually adapts less to that deficit in the short term than if you did a longer term aggressive diet. So there are some benefits to it. But yeah, it's hard. It is. And I think actually focusing, as I've always said this, focusing on habits, routines, building a healthy diet, building a healthy relationship with food and exercise is going to last longer in terms of sustainability than doing something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Cool.
There you go.
That's it. I think, have I missed anything on that one?
That is, no, I think that was everything. Yeah. Amazing. Cool. So there you go. If you want to have a look at the post, you can check it out.
Yeah.
Have a look at it, and then obviously any questions you can fire them through to Will in his inbox, and he'll
and I will answer them. And I'm gonna try and put some stories up as well, just to answer a couple of the other questions. So one of them, and I'll do it on this, is just as a quick thing, because you're in a low deficit, you are going to have less energy for workouts. So if you're doing this, you're not going to keep the intensity of the workouts as you normally used to. You might find that you are a little bit more tired if you are active. So again, if you're somebody who is active, if you're training regularly, then that's a consideration as well. You might want to, and what you can do, just as if you are training regularly and you're doing this, then you can have some carbs just before you train. You don't need much. You're only looking at, say, something like a banana, or I use Haribo. So you're only looking at, say, 20 or 30 grams, of carbs before a workout, maybe 40 or 50 if you're doing some cardio. But somewhere between 30 to 50 grams of carbs before a workout, that will give you the energy that you need. And it's got to be fast acting carbs. So things like bananas, because they're high in sugar, Haribo, porridge, probably not going to be the thing. Slow releasing. But
it's like your simple sugars, isn't it? Like you say, your Haribo, your sweets, your banana, your carby,
your jelly sweets, So your sugary sweets, and just a few of them. I tend to get little packs of Haribo if I'm and I have done this a couple of times. If I'm doing this, a pack of Haribo, a little pack, not the big ones, not the share bags. What? Just a small pack of Haribo that say, I don't know, a couple of little bags. I think they're the 20-gram pack. So
they're really small, aren't they? Like the ones you put in like party bags. And
that's the one. So I have a couple of those before a workout, and that gives me just enough, maybe 15-20 minutes before the workout, gives me just enough energy for the workout. And then but I also lower my training. So instead of doing sort of 5 or 6 days, I might do 3 or 4. And I definitely don't do cardio, because that would just finish me off.
Not when you're trying to train for an event. Probably not. No, I don't think I'll do it now. Maybe afterwards, end of September.
But it is something. I mean, actually, this is something that I have done with people who are training for an event. If they're doing something like an endurance event, a marathon, and they're thinking, right, we need to shift some weight before we start the series training. We've done a sort of a 3-4 week aggressive diet to lose anywhere from 7 to 14 pounds. And then we've brought the calories up to maintenance, because it's much easier to train when you're eating close to maintenance.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to, if you're trying to train for a marathon and lose weight at the same time, that's hard work.
That's not going to end well.
No, so definitely there are some benefits to the kind of the short, sharp ones, but I'll put some more info up and stuff up on my stories as well. So have a look at those if you've got any questions. And I think that's it.
Amazing. We're all good then.
Cool. Right, I could go and have my chicken gyros.
Oh, I got chicken stir fry tonight.
Oh,
Can't
nice.
wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
be very good.
Cool. All right, then, guys, that is us for another week. Loads of good questions there, but
Yeah.
and we'll be back next week. All right, it's bye from
Yes.
us.
Bye.